Hey, Arthur. Let's start here. As far as the quarterback situation, I guess at halftime, Laura Rowledge reported that you did not consider making a change at quarterback. Have you evaluated that further? Is that something you're looking at this point?
Yeah, those are always, Mike, appreciate the question. Those are always going to come up, right, when you've got two games back to back that you don't score enough points. So you understand the question. You got a young player in his eighth start, and you got to find out. There's a fine line of being stubborn, in situations and coming out of halftime and see what he's got, because otherwise you'll never know. And to Dez's credit, obviously nobody likes the result of what happened early in the game, but to come back, through two picks, one was a pick six, and see what you got, see if you become hesitant, see if you've got anything to you. And I thought he came back and what, obviously wasn't what you wanted result wise, gave us a chance. Now, the biggest thing we got to do is we have to jumpstart. Like, you go from feeling okay, being 2-0 in the last 8 days, give or take, you don't feel very well. I mean, it's putting it blunt. So we've got to find a way to start faster. There's different things. We've looked at it, schematically. You always look at what you're calling, what you're doing differently, but we have to get that solved. So we're not sitting there in a 10-0 hole.
Just as a follow-up, is Desmond still your starter, just to be clear?
Mike, look, obviously, I wouldn't be sitting there and getting on that pontificating about what went on in the game if we're making a change.
Okay. One more, if I can slip it in there. As far as you're saying offensive changes, things to jumpstart it, what have you identified at this point that might work to do that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, to try to get them into a rhythm. I mean, there's things that you call early in the games, whether it's screens, you try play actions, you try all kind of different things to get going, right? And then yesterday, the one thing that you're in there backed up, so maybe it changes a little bit. We're not very clean on the first two, so you're getting in the third and long backed up. We get the ball in the Bijan's hand. They brought pressure in there, trying to see if they can create a play, and got the ball in Bijan's hand. And obviously we came up a yard short as the game got it going, though. When they tried certain things, getting the ball underneath the Bijan's not a bad option. So that certainly helped certain ways. But then, obviously the second drive, you get into that short yardage, and whatever happens, the ball doesn't come out, and we basically take a coverage sack. So it's not ideal. And so there's some things that I'd say that you get hesitant on, and then all of a sudden you try to force things, and it's neither result is good for you.
Thanks.
Mark Zeno.
Arthur, what goes into the process of, when you're trying to figure out if a change at quarterback is required? I mean, I know it's an open-ended question. Sure. It's hard to know, but, is it a week-to-week thing, or are you evaluating this in the big picture? Where are you guys, at least in those conversations, if you're having them at all?
Well, I think you talk about big picture. I mean, there's as you guys know this, you're talking about young quarterbacks in this league and things that you want to be able to see. There's a fine line between always jerking the wheel and making a guy more hesitant, and you got to make the best decision for your team going forward. If you think that the biggest issue is making a change, then that's what you have to do. Nobody's going to sit there and do the same thing over and over, right? That's whether it's true or not, right? That's one of the definitions of insanity that gets credit, but you understand that you don't want to be stubborn that way. And then the fine line, you objectively look at it, is it just, you're talking about putting it all on one person. There's a lot of things that go into it. If you didn't think it gave you a chance, if you didn't have evidence of it, that'd be a problem. So you're talking about 8 starts, 4-4, right? The biggest obstacle we've got is starting fast. The last 2 results, hard to win. Not getting off to a start, putting yourself in a hole like that. Played well at home, but we know we got to be better early on offense. So there's a lot that goes into it. What you don't want to do is there's a fine line, like I said, is just jerking the wheel and being overreactionary, and then objectively look at it. Hey, what's the best thing for this team?
And then just a quick follow up, as far as, last year it's 13 weeks with Marcus, and I understand
Different, completely different situation. They're all different. Yeah,
100%.
completely different.
I mean, is it as simple to say that in the bottom line business of wins and losses, if the wins aren't coming, that a change would be more imminent?
Look, I think when you're not winning, everything's on the table. Like that's what that's your job, to make decisions. The ultimate goal is to win. And as you're building this thing, and you got a lot of young skill guys out there, right? We made a huge investment in our defense. They're playing really well. We made an investment up front. Right? I thought that, regardless of the final score, I thought the O-line played with much better intent yesterday. I thought it was Lindstrom's best game of this year. And obviously we don't have the end result there. So you're looking at a lot of things. You're relying on some young guys who've done some good things. We got to be more consistent. There's no doubt about it. So you just look at it all. But that's our job daily, being objective. Okay, is it working schematically? Is there things we need to change up? We got to get something going early.
Thanks, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Schultz.
Arthur, you sort of answered this a little bit, but beyond wins and losses, what would tell you the most that it's time to make the change?
Yeah, look, I appreciate it. Look, we understand going into this, right? You have a quarterback you drafted in the third round. Didn't have the fantastical hype coming in. We know we invest in certain places, and we made that switch last year. And like I said, you're 8 games into it. I think if you think it's, Jeff, there's no perfect answer, but if you thought something was not going to work and there's no signs of hope, well, certainly that's, in any position, you got to make a change. So where we're at right now, it may feel bad. We all do. The last, 8 days, you go from being 2-0, and we know nothing's ever perfect, but to get in these kind of games, and we have to jumpstart. So we got to see this week, and every week it's our job, but we've got to start faster.
And as a quick follow-up, is there anything that's happened so far, not just these last 2 weeks, but overall, that has either surprised you or you didn't expect about Des at all in terms of his performance? Anything maybe you weren't prepared for, or you've had to dial back maybe in the playbook? I'm just curious from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, I think you're always looking at that, Jeff. Like if you're not getting the results you want early on, okay. And I think you've always got to look at yourself first. Okay, what are you asking a player to do? You put him in the best position to succeed. So that's what you want to evaluate, right? And okay, well, why we're not getting the results? If you feel good about this, or and and knowing a player, like I said, you're talking about 8 starts and putting in the most. And everybody knows who they sign up for, the most pressure-heavy job in pro sports. That's what you needed to see coming after halftime. If you jerk the wheel, are you going to respond? I mean, adversity is going to tell you everything about people in any industry. And like I said, that is the things that gives you hope. Okay, the biggest thing we've got to do now, let's get that production early, so we're not sitting here and every possession is, like a 2-minute drive to win the game, where your margin of error is even smaller. That's what happens when you put yourself in a hole like that. You get in those drives, you come a long drive in the third quarter. Makes a hell of a play to Drake. Does a good job selling the little double move and put the ball we needed to. It's a great catch, right? Got us some life. Then you get another drive and you stall out. You don't get what you anticipated, and you're putting yourself behind the sticks. And you get down there and get a good play. Not clean on execution. Put yourself behind the sticks. Jono makes a good play, makes a good throw, and gets us in a 4th and 3. They bring cover 0. Try to get the look we want. Obviously, credit to them. We didn't. But that's how the drives become so pressure heavy in the second half, when you put yourself down like that. But that's what you got to see what any player does when it's real in those pressure situations. So that's what you're looking at from yesterday. But we know going back, like, Jeff, we know this. Like, you have to acknowledge, like, we got to get going early, because now it's a thing. Clearly, we got to get going early and get ourselves and score more points.
Joe Patrick. Hey, Arthur. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about some of these things with Ritter's performance yesterday. How do you evaluate some of those things, the critical errors, with the fact that I think he was at one point he was 9 for 9 on third down. Like there were definitely some positives, especially in that second half, like you mentioned. And I know you've always been a fan of like how he operates on those critical down situations. So how do you kind of balance those kind of two contradicting signals, I guess?
Right. I mean, that's the biggest obstacle, because you do see some positive, but clearly the result early is not what you need out of an offense, out of a team. You know, that's the thing, is because what happens too is when you stall out early, you know, those field positions, those drives became long. I mean, to give Jacksonville credit, nobody pays to see both punters play a lot, and Binion does a hell of a job. But that was a punting battle going on, and we're consistently. But that's our fault, because you don't get out of those situations early, and you're losing some of the field position. And even when you got a drive going, like I said, we got behind the count, and it's the second week in a row, different situations of like taking a sack on third and long. If you don't get lined up quick, right, we're not going to get the back out. They're bringing an overload pressure, essentially cover zero. They're going to have one more than you, and then you lose a huge amount of field position on that. But again, that has to do with the play clock. Those are the unintended consequences sometimes, and it's not all on the quarterback. We got to get going so we can get to the checks, and that's what you saw later. When you got a player like Bijan, and that is a friendly to the quarterback, right? Pick your poison. You want to bail out of there. You got a guy underneath. You can get one-on-ones, and he looks like Allen Iverson with the ball in his hand sometimes, and that helps. That helps convert some third downs. But we got to be more consistent there, Joe.
And then just to follow up, I know you briefly mentioned it in the post-game press conference, just about the pick six that he threw. Just what did you see from him on that throw?
Trying to force it to I'm not telling you anything he wouldn't tell you, and you're acknowledging the thing, and this is not critical. It's what happened. I think, when somebody you doesn't go, you're trying to force it to one of your guys, and and that's the thing sometimes when, like I said, if you try to force things in this league, they'll take advantage of it, and those are tough lessons learned. So you don't want to keep repeating the same mistakes, but he knows that. Trying to get straight the ball, but the play didn't take him there. So that's what I saw, and that's what Des saw, and he knows that. But those are the conversations you have when you're not exploding on the sideline. Like, got it. You know what the intentions are, and not what you want. And then the same thing with Kyle, right? Took the shot to Drake earlier. They played it completely different. He's trying to get it to Kyle, and Cisco goes in there and jumps the route. But those are the two biggest problems with both those.
Jarvis.
Hey, Coach. Can you put your finger on as far as how the difference of play as far as Desmond Ridder playing at home and on the road? Because the numbers
Sure.
seem to be like a vast difference. So, and how do you kind of, I guess, repeat that? I mean, I guess with the two home games coming up, I feel like there might be something you may be able to tap into.
Well, certainly it's obviously more comfortable, start at home, your routines and this and that. But the reality is you got to win on the road in this league. You need to do both if you want to be a really great team. So, yeah, those are things you look at. Okay, what's the biggest difference? He has been pretty damn good at home, but the same thing is, when you can get something going early, especially on the road, like when you need to steal the initiative, like in a game yesterday. Historically, a team started slow in London. It kind of was a little lethargic both drives, and then we got a call. You take a risk, and Richie's got a free hitter, trying to get him to throw it hot. Doesn't make the sack. It's a busted coverage, but the intent was to make him hot, and we did. Now that's a risk you take, and to Trevor's credit, he spends out of it, and so it becomes a long developing play extension, and they make a play, so then all of a sudden now you're in the hole, and we certainly didn't help it with the pick six, and there's a lot to overcome. But everything gets looked at, Jarvis, is a good question. But we know overall we need to take the next step. Thankfully we're 2-2. Sometimes it feels like you're 0-4 when you lose two games like that, but we know we got a lot of work to do, and we got to solve this problem.
Yeah, just a real quick follow-up. As far as the protection, the offensive line has some issues with the protection piece, but do you feel like you can pinpoint where there may have been some opportunities for Desmond Ridder to make plays on when the protection may have broken down or before it had broken down?
Sure, you look at all the sacks, as you know, Jarvis. I'm sure you saw the tape. First two, you got protection sometimes, and again, you don't necessarily see what they see under center. And the 10 of those plays, and the ball doesn't come out. Well, those are the first two, right? Like I said, the third one, they brought the zero pressure. That was the 3rd and 9, I believe, that we lost the field position. We're late in the shot clock. We don't make our adjustment to get the back out, throw hot, and we take a sack. Right? It's cover 0. They added. They got one more than we do. They executed better than we did, clearly. And then late in the game, Josh Allen did it. He got around the corner. So you kind of look at it. I think overall, the protection, I thought we had some good pockets yesterday. I do. But, yeah, the numbers are what they are. You can chop them up and say, okay, well, 11 in 2 games, it's all on the line. That's never the case in offensive football. And so you take them all differently, but acknowledge, too, like, nobody wants to take that many sacks. But how they happen are all different.
Josh Kendall.
Arthur, speaking, if you can, for halftime and then post game and then maybe even lingering into today, how did you think Desmond responded to the way he played, and how did you think his teammates responded to him after a couple of bad outings?
Well, Josh, I think that's what you had to find out, right? You go in a game like that, and those things happen the first half. You're going to find out, the old sink or swim. And to his credit, he came out firing, and there wasn't hesitancy. Because if it's hesitancy, I don't care what position you play in, any high performance job, high pressure job, you start to get hesitant. Bad deal. So you found out about after some real adversity what he was about. So that would obviously in circumstances, at least that's what we found out in the second half, Josh. Certainly the emotions of a game when people want to make plays, and that's the fine line too. I mean, even as a coach, right? I mean, it's easy as a coach to sit there and get frustrated, and you got to be conscientious of your body language, and that's the same thing in some of those skill guys. I mean, everybody wants the football. You want guys that want the football, but when you get the emotion, then that's not what you want either. You want to, but those are the things when you have real guys like you are, you have real conversations, and you're not trying to sell you guys a bunch of vaporware or snake oil. So.
Right.
Just acknowledge it. We all got to be better to start the game.
Do you feel like Des still has the support of his teammates?
Yeah. I'd hope the teammates still have the support of each other. There's some other things too that go on that don't get talked about. Like, hey, would you make sure you're at the right depth, on the right route, block the guy, so we don't get hit on certain things. I mean, those are all things. But those guys know because they see the film. They may not show up on the stat sheet. So if you don't have those honest conversations, yeah. The low-hanging fruit is quarterback there. And but that's when you know what's real and what's not. But we can certainly see it, the drama that plays out sometimes. And, I mean, you need that trust, but the trust has to go from everybody, not just off one play and, guy makes a spectacle of it. That's not what you want. You want to have truthful conversations. And that's the one thing, Josh, that gives me a lot of hope. Is we got the right guys in the locker room where you can have those real conversations.
Thanks, Arthur.
Thank you.
D-Led.
Yeah, Coach. You spoke about body language. Did you have to address Mac Hollins' body language to Ridder on the sidelines?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that Mac talked to you guys post game.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, well, it tells you he's a real guy.
We didn't get to talk to you about it.
Well, you're talking to me now about it. Where are you at? You still in the airport?
Boston Logan.
Oh, nice. No, I mean, obviously he talked after me, D-Led, so that's why I'm here talking today. But yeah, I mean, you acknowledge that at halftime. But Mac's a real guy. I've let my emotions get the best of me too, and I'm not proud of it. It's going to happen. We're human, and I think at times it's been BS on my part, and that's what we're all working to do better. But if you don't have those trust and you can't acknowledge it, then that's not the real culture. Everybody wants to talk about culture. That's not the real culture if you don't have the right guys. Mac's the right guy. Like I said, I've made more mistakes than anybody. So, but those are always conversations you have. You don't let to ignore things is not the right approach either.
Okay. And how did Jeff Okunda play in his first start with the Falcons?
I thought Jeff played really well, D-Led. That was good to see. I thought our DBs they're playing really well in coverage. Like I said, we gave up we took a risk, and they got a broken play. It was the one touchdown they scored. I thought A.J. Terrell played lights out. I thought Jeff Okudah played well. I thought D. Alford played well. Safeties continue to do a good job. There's always things we can do a little bit better. I thought Nate Landman played well. Nate's a good physical football player. I thought Anyamata, those guys, man, they moved the line of scrimmage and made life hard for them. In that regard, overall, I know Okudah, I was really happy for Jeff.
Okay. And lastly, for me, looking ahead to the Houston team that's coming in, it look like they got things going pretty good kind of early with the young quarterback.
Yeah, they should have a lot of confidence the last two games. He's made some plays. He's a talented player. And that's the thing about CJ is and saw it coming out of Ohio State, certainly saw it. I mean, he was probably the only, to Georgia's defensive credit, CJ was the only one that looked pretty good against what's been the arguably best defense in college football the last couple of years. So it shouldn't surprise anybody. Good football player. He's making a lot of good throws. So, maybe we can acknowledge that there's no perfect test coming out.
And injury-wise, I guess you just had Josh Ali miss. How did Cordero make it through?
Yeah.
And I guess D. Alford made it back into the game.
He did, and D played well. But CP, it was the first game back. We had some things for him. But, when you start that slow, it's a lot of time for him to be on the bench. I got to play late, but that's a thing. CP continues to get healthy where he can, be more a part of it. We had a couple things for him. D led the way that flowed early on, didn't get to it. But continue hopefully to take another step this week because you get a healthy CP out there. That can certainly help our offense. You're talking about a spark. That could certainly help too.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you,
Michael. Go to your follow-up.
Yeah, Arthur, at some point during the broadcast, too, they mentioned that Kyle Pitts is maybe still not fully healthy. Where is he at this point in his recovery?
Well, I mean, look at him. Obviously, he's out there, right? And there's, sometimes, again, there's no perfect timetables, but there's certain things that you see him that he's doing really well right now. And there's certain things that, again, as it's, been a journey back that he's going to get there. So, again, I'd hate to put percentages on it, but you have to acknowledge that I thought yesterday there was some things outside where he looked as fast as he did as a rookie. So it's getting close, Mike. But to Kyle's credit, he continues to work extremely hard behind the scenes and never made an excuse out of anything. So that's the best answer I can give you, Mike.
Has that impacted what maybe you thought you might be able to do offensively?
Again, you try to put everybody in the best situations. Every week there's something different. Maybe the way they're covering, maybe their matchups. So those are the games you play week in and week out. Like I said, we need to get into a groove because you get into some longer drives. That's when the ball usually spreads around and we can hit our potential. But if you continue to limit yourselves on possessions or amount of plays, it's going to be hard to get into a great rhythm.
Thanks.
Mark Zeno, go to your follow-up. You're muted.
Sorry about that. In reference to the starting fast, how many different ways can you try and figure out a way to fix this problem? I mean, I know some of it's opponent dependent, right? If what they do well and what you want to do per se, but there doesn't seem to be a magic elixir here. Is there a sense of just play to your strengths and just feed the run as much as you were able to do last year and be successful with it when you're kind of throwing your hands up at this point?
Well, I don't think you ever throw your hands up, I don't see you as a guy that would ever be defeated either, right? Maybe I got you pegged wrong, but obviously you're looking for answers and you need solutions. So yeah, you try different things and sometimes it's a fine line to try to, try to do too many different things. You know, like yesterday, you come out, you're backed up, try to hit a run to the strong side, you go underneath. We got to get the safety. So, you know, you don't take it. You don't get what you need to out of that play. It's not blaming it. That's just what happened. You got to give Jacksonville credit. So, you did try to spark it. You're trying to play the situation. You could all go into it. There's been games we've come out there, like Green Bay. We got the quick screen to Drake. He got us going. And then, unfortunately, right, we got hit. We got picked. So, they're all different. Different things you try to set up. But ultimately, Zeno, at the end of the day, we got to get it going. So you look at everything, play to your strengths, something to strike that first match, get us into it, and that's like the drive of the first drive of the third quarter. Get in there, some things that we had set up, get going a little bit, get a productive run. A couple of then you hit an explosive. You know, Scotty Miller makes a hell of a play. The way we had set some things up and pressed, cut, and you get an explosive run. Usually, you have a big explosive in a drive. It's usually good things happen. It certainly happened that drive. So yeah, you look at it all, Zeno, but we'll never just throw our hands up. We got to find a way.